woke up feeling quite low and unwell this morning, and there was a noticeable difference that it was a bit more severe, I think, than previous times. But at the same time, it's hard to compare, or it's impossible for me to compare how I've been feeling before, even months or years. There's a sense of, what's the word for a slope begins with G? This is happening more and more memory stuff, which I may talk about in a second. Gradient, I think it's gradient. So there's a sense of a sort of downward slope. Especially recently, it's been more sharp. But if I was to sort of briefly look over the years, you can almost sense the slope there. And the reason I talk about the severity, or hard to compare, is because it almost feels like sometimes it feels like I'm dealing with two different things. Like one day it's a sheet of paper with like a picture on it, and the next day it's like a sculpture. So it's very hard to compare the unwellness that's drawn on the paper versus a sculpture, a 3D sculpture. There's two separate experiences. Or another way to put it, like a pencil drawing and a full oil painting. So they're kind of two. It's hard to measure one against the other. But there was a sense of the severity in regards to feeling. There was a sense of this morning things closing in. Everything was, it still is now in some respects. It's perhaps more intense this morning, but everything's kind of closing in, like walls are closing in. And there was a sense of things getting worse. Like I talk about memory now. It was last night that I was trying to remember the name of something, and it was such a strange process because it almost felt like there wasn't any sort of memory to work with, in a sense. It almost felt like someone had kind of taken the capacity of memory out of me. It's a very strange feeling. It's the first time I've kind of had it where it's felt that strained. And this is all really difficult to talk about because obviously memory, all of this is not, there's physical elements in the brain, but the place of memory, there isn't, in a sense, of course, a physical thing where you can look at memory in that sense. But the capacity, I could feel like it was just like it felt like perhaps like a big boulder was there and there was just no getting through it to access it really. And I always had to work around that to remember this name of something. So I kind of was going through my head of, okay, and it's really letters that letters of the alphabet. That it's going through the alphabet and thinking, okay, does any letters chime? And then I got to O, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe there's an O in there. Okay. It was so strange. It was almost like felt like there was like a brain injury. That's what it felt like, and I was recalibrating or working with a deficient brain, I guess. A brain that's not functioning. So we have to find another way to do it. So it's kind of going through this strange process, and it's stressful as well, because sometimes I just let it go, and I thought, oh, I won't. But then I kept sort of going back to it as well, and it was just a stressful sort of moment last night, and it was painful as well. And I was thinking, should I? Of course, it's not the end of the world, but it's something that I felt like I needed at the time. And memory generally has just been more and more severe. Some funny examples, like in the morning I'd put on some moisturizer on my face after washing my face, and now sometimes there's moments of I just don't know if I've done it or not. Like I'll step out of the shower, I'll wash my face before, and I'll come out and think, I have no idea if I put moisturizer, because sometimes memory can be faint. We can have a small spark of, and then that spark leads to the full memory. I'm guessing memory itself is probably, I'm sure it's a very complicated thing, and whatever part of the brain that stores that, it's probably a whole complicated process. So I can imagine stress and trauma and other things affecting that process, lack of sleep, and I wonder if it is just that, if it is just what the sort of doctors have talked about when I mentioned something about cognitive function, that it's just all depression, brain fog, dissociation. And with this memory, to me it feels like it's more than that. It feels like there's a general, another word I can't think of that I want to say. It's a word, I think it begins with R. So maybe this would be a new game on these recordings. That slowly, it kind of weathers away, that begins with R. Can't think of it. But there's this, I've got another word that I can use. Can I use? That word's gone now as well. Just thinking if I was talking to a doctor and about memory. And I'd forgot what I was going to say to them. It'd be like a perfect illustration of my symptoms. It's a funny image, tragically funny image. But yeah, going back to memory, there's a sense of that it's more than that, but it feels sort of terrifying, or there's no basis I have to self-evaluate, really. I think in the past I've tried to speak up about cognitive function and thinking that there's a serious illness here, but then they've kind of said, the doctors said, it's just part of symptoms of depression, and it just I imagine it's going to be similar with memory potentially, but maybe I'll bring it up. I'm seeing a doctor on I think sometime next week, maybe next Thursday, I think, just the 10th. So potentially I could bring it up there, but it's really difficult to bring it up because it feels like there's no credibility, there's no confidence, and there's no. I almost always sell it short, and always think that I'm over exaggerating, and often it feels that way. And the doctors, say, yeah, it's just depression, it's okay, that. When part of me feels like the human body, and it's so complex, especially the brain and things like memory and other things, where can it possibly be something else as well? But I guess with the resources and healthcare, and with the really, it's always all doctor's appointments, I kind of felt like there's a rush there. And I'm sure that with the busyness, there's always a backlog of patients and running late and things, and it all kind of adds up to the experience of it's difficult to be heard, really. And of course, how can one have confidence in that? Because when it's impossible to self-evaluate if it really is more than just the symptom of depression getting worse. Anyways, that's so when I woke up this morning, I was just kind of just feeling very lifeless. I think in the past, when I felt low, there's a small glimmer of light or energy that was kind of saying, okay, you're feeling low, but let's try and shower, let's go for a walk outside, let's do some healthy activities. But today there was no glimmer of light. It was there's no energy or desire, motivation to try and do sort of healthy activities. It's just, it felt like it will add to the pain. And so I decided to try and just take today a few minutes at a time. So that was my only, maybe that's a glimmer of light, I don't know, but that was just me knowing certain tools, I guess. So even in that darkness of literally wanting to just sort of go back to bed and just sort of crawl up under the covers, and just try and bear it. There's something in me that said, okay, can you take a few minutes at a time? That's all I have to manage is the next few minutes. So I started with the easiest, not easiest thing, but I guess simplest sort of thing is to, okay, I'm going to take a shower. Focused on that. Then after I showered, I was deciding what to do, whether to try and push myself for a walk in a park, but I thought it would be good to try and record today. So I thought I made a cup of coffee and ended up watching a Ram Dass lecture. I kind of consciously thought it would be good for me to just listen to something like that, and it did help. It did sort of rejuvenate a little bit of sort of presence in me. And sometimes I watch these videos not to learn stuff, because often it's talking about the same things, but it's almost like a bit of a medicine for me, a bit of a painkiller. It's more than that. It absorbs in, but it initially helps with, sometimes it can help with just having some support to go back to being present, a little bit of a tailwind or a supportive hand to kind of guide me back to being present, which that did. I haven't watched all of it. I was mindfully kind of paused it halfway through, knowing that it would be good for me to record and try and get outside for a little bit. Thought I could also maybe just, I don't know if it's helpful to review the past few days. Last time I recorded was Sunday, I think, when it was a very difficult day. And on a Monday I saw some family. We met up at a cafe and I did some writing. We did some work together. And I felt the effect, the impact of being in company. That's sort of getting a bit more severe as well. The after or during as well. Just it's easy to dissociate or lose myself or feel very drained. And the cafe atmosphere as well, the noise. But I managed to sort of get out and continue that, work on the editing of the novel, slowly edging. I'm on the last page at the moment of editing the novel. Then I'm going to I've already found an agent to send it to. Not that I've got an agent. don't want to put it across that way. A submission to send to an agent to see if just to see if anything happens with that story. I've got to write the cover letter and synopsis for that, which is often not. It's always been difficult, and I imagine it's going to be extra difficult now, with just the way I am. So that's going to be something to try and do. I think what helps is, because I'm so close to the finish line of sending it off to an agent, so that kind of first I'm in this little tunnel now, pressurized tunnel, where I can see the light, and I'm sort of wanting to get through it now to the other side. So I'm going to slowly sort of chip away at doing that over the coming days. Can't remember what else I said on the Sunday's vlog, but I probably mentioned I'm doing a bit more reading and writing, like very small bursts of that, as a way to just help focus, some sort of focus for the day. Yes, on days like today, I try and be a bit more flexible when I can. But as I mentioned, I talked about perspective. It's hard to know when to gently press the accelerator, and other times when to pull the handbrake and actually just rest completely. It's tricky to do that. But maybe the intention or outlook for today to just handle it a few minutes at a time. Maybe that's a good way, because then it means I can do anything and then drop it after a minute or so if it's too much. So sometimes it feels like on days like this, and maybe with a lack of perspective, I have to kind of test the temperature of things. And maybe that's a good way to sort of try and go about it when there isn't any clear thoughts or clear evaluations mentally about doing an activity. It's just maybe doing it for for a minute or so, and see what the temperature is like, see if I'm able to, if it's too stressful or if it's something I can continue for another couple of minutes. So I may do that with the reading and writing today. One thing I've been doing that I want to mention, that is try and sort of talk to myself in a very, well, not really talk, but comment, I guess, sort of affirming certain activities for the self. Like, it will be very, I used to do this a lot, but then I kind of lost that ability and voice, and now I'm not sure if it's coming back to me or if I'm just going through the motions. But it could be like, when I'm brushing my teeth and I just say a comment of, well done for getting up, sort of to myself in my head. Just acknowledge slow encouragement. Maybe encouragement is the right word. So I've been doing that a lot more with lots of activities, just because things have been so severe and so much effort required, and I feel like that helps sometimes to just to go through that process or practice. So it doesn't have to be a huge big deal in terms of, it's a very subtle, a very quiet whisper of, well done for doing this, or you've done well just to get up and shower and things like that. So and often it's what's unsaid in that sort of good job or well done is, I know you're suffering, or I know it's such a difficult day, and well done for doing this. So it's not in a sense praise, but it's just, it's almost a grounding comment to acknowledge the difficultness and say, okay, despite this, or this is going on, and well done for still doing it. So it's a very sort of light comment, really, less, not so much like praise or motivational in that way. It's just more it's more like I'm stumbling along, and I just a well done for taking one extra footstep. So it's just that little bit of encouragement to keep me crawling forward, or taking another footstep forward in a day. So that's a useful sort of voice there I've been consciously doing. And I feel like grounding's a good word, because it acknowledges, it sort of breaks up this big solid experience of difficulty. I feel like sometimes you can just lose yourself in that, and I feel like the grounding comments, acknowledging activity of certain things, just reminds me that part of me still here, that it's not it gets me to focus, I guess, just on the present as well, present experience, present moment. And this morning I felt very scared, going back to this morning again. Scared, I guess, because it felt so lifeless, so unwell. And it was, in a moment, it wasn't sort of analysing in a sense of describing myself. I was just in that place. I still am as I record here. Just more things being stripped away, like the lack of energy to do anything. It feels like that's going to be a regular thing and slowly recede as I become more and more. Just there's a sense of that. It's not necessarily a negative thought. There's a sense of that, and there's evidence as well over the last months, or even the last year, where things are receding or getting more difficult. And I guess the scary part was just facing the day. How, perhaps there was an unconscious question of how How am I going to get through this day? And the last, I don't think I'll recap much of the last couple of days. Well, I mentioned Monday, but Tuesday, can't really. I guess that's. Maybe I want to talk about the late nights I've had as well. I think in the evenings sometimes the pain can be quite a lot, mental pain of stuff, and wanting to reach for something, whether a YouTube video or even sometimes I want to create more pain for myself. Maybe staying up late sometimes is a pain because it's lack of sleep and pain of exhaustion, and it's almost a bit of a torture sometimes, but also I can't get myself into bed. That feels a torture as well, to try and do those sort of activities. So it's a bit of a catch-22. Feels like, evening times is right now. There's stormy waters and it's out of my control, and I've got this dinghy in the stormy waters of the evening, and it's like some evenings I'm able to, there are some calm waters, so I can use that window to kind of wash my face and get ready for bed and get into bed at a good time. And when there's really stormy waters, it's not possible for me to do. I have the same sort of challenge for food at the moment, in terms of I wasn't able to cook yesterday, which was an intention of mine, and I've no idea if I'll be able to cook today at all. I can't see ahead of me. I can only see a few feet ahead of me now, in this kind of state, in this kind of mood. So everything feels very unpredictable for the rest of the day. But I know how can I word this? Well, I'm going to need to figure out, I guess, food for dinner tonight. I haven't eaten today. I thought I'd try and fast until lunchtime. It's past lunchtime now. It's approaching it now, I think. And that's a little bit not out of control, but it's probably, there's some out of balance there, which is natural, I think, because there's no stability in my mood at the moment, and so it's very hard to build something stable on something that's unstable. But there was a conscious decision, at least, to say, okay, maybe a fast would help with I know there's some relation to insulin and fasting, and allowing the body to kind of balance itself out a little bit, where it's not having to burn food and or create insulin to offset the glucose and those types of things. So, but it is difficult and perhaps dangerous and unhealthy for me because of there's a strain of sort of what foods I'm eating at the moment and not eating, and binging, my habits of binging as well. So fasting is I can't imagine if I was to tell this dietitian who would contact me in regards to my pre-diabetic and my eating, would recommend that I continue doing what I'm doing, but there's such a fine line between binging and then fasting, and it's like it kind of goes into the realm of anorexia and all of that whole eating patterns of stuff. You could, even on the fringes of that, it's very easy to slip into. For example, if today I had a pizza, then I think, okay, I can fast the next 2 days, and then you quickly get out of balance with things. It's almost like a ping pong hitting against a wall, but if you hit the ball fast, then each time it's going to get faster and faster. It kind of, you lose your grip on it. So I've got to be kind of careful and mindful on that as much as I can, or just maybe not fast anymore as much. So I was going to record a podcast episode before this, but I thought this is maybe more important for now, and I didn't want to risk recording an episode than being too tired to record this. So I think I'm going to try and go to the park, maybe do a lap around the park. Last few days I've been consciously trying to get out there and do a few laps around for some exercise. I feel really like I'm not really able to push myself, so maybe I'll see how I feel when I get out there, but it'd be good to maybe upload this today. Then figure out sort of dinner really. It's scary not knowing how that's going to go, because I know part of me wants to cook and have a healthy meal for the evening, but it just feels like I'm like, I don't know the bridge to build between that. It's like this huge canyon between, I'm on one ledge, cooking's on the other side. I'm not sure about the bridge I can build to do that. Sometimes the bridge is just a thought of watching a nice movie as I'm cooking, and then that builds the momentum up and a bit of a foundation. I think, yeah, let's do it. But right now I just feel like I've got no energy. I'm just floating in the water, of just tired of swimming, and I just don't have any energy to try and get like an ember of motivation or desire or thoughts about cooking today.